before we go forward, we must go back in that before the Season 9 packs drops, where, again, the devs have doubled down on 5v5. There, rumor on the street is this is allegedly like Overwatch 3, right? I want to take a step back and just remind everybody about where this game was, right? I want to take us back to October 2020, the best balanced state Overwatch has ever been in, where, you know, I've never seen anything like it because every single streamer, old and new, every pro player, were extremely complimentary of the Overwatch dev team, right? I've never seen, like, and I say this because this is like right when the creator server first started back up, or started up rather, and like literally I've never seen anything like it, guys. I've never seen anything like it. Like, you had unanimously positive feedback to the developers from myself, from Seagull, from Kabaji, from Emong, from like, this is like pre-flats, I guess. But everybody, like old and new, to Fran, like every big creator went to the developers and said, you guys did a great job with this patch. The gameplay feels awesome. The meta at high level isn't too oppressive, right? This is great. They then went on to immediately buff everything everyone hates. And then Aaron Keller came out and said there was some misconception about the October 2020 patch, that it was somehow the best balance ever, blah, blah, blah. But we have to update the game. Some nonsense, right? And it was a major red flag. I remember reacting to it. But at the time I said, you know, it's okay, like, whatever. We're looking forward to PvE, right? And the PvE kind of overshadowed that. Nobody wanted to be a negative Nancy because, like, you know, they had the PvP around the corner. We're like, all right, well, let them show what they had. And turns out they had literally nothing. So let's take a look back as to what made Overwatch 1 great and why everyone unanimously said this patch was good before we go into this absolute mess and total rework of the game in Season 9. Let's take a look.
You see me actually, right?
I remember,
yeah,
like, TCP. Look at the big plays in Overwatch 1 and 6v6. No immos in the game.
What year is it, boys?
2017, baby.
They weren't running any immos.
No.
You could actually get kills and do setups and execute.
I think it was 2016, actually.
Yeah, that was.
And the game was about execution. And that was what made Overwatch so much fun. The reward was higher because, again, you could kill up to 6 players. Every player's health was lower, so it was more about working with your teammates, which is what, to quote Aaron Keller, made the game magical. And you can just see this. That doesn't happen in this game anymore. It just doesn't. Somebody would get Suzu'd. There'd be an ammo field. There'd be a life grip. There'd be a pedal. There'd be some denial ability or a tank that has 700 HP that you just can't kill. It's not the same game, right? And that's going to be worse in Season 9.
I find myself in late 2020, some reason or another, playing Overwatch regularly again, and I am very surprised. In previous patches or metas, or historically with Overwatch, it's pretty common, you know, you go through a long queue time, you load up the game, you pit tab, and you take a quick peek at your team comp, and you go, okay,
the support made a bad play and
looks
died.
like they got double bear and we don't, or looks like they got Brig and we don't, or looks like they have Roadhog and then we don't. Wow, I guess we lost. GG, or we're screwed. See you later. GG, go next. And in the current patch of Overwatch, I am very happy to report that I don't really do that right now. And that's pretty crazy. It is probably one of the most balanced patches I have seen in Overwatch's history, and I say that as somebody who's been playing since beta. And do note, by the way, I'm talking specifically about ladder play. I'm sure pros will figure out a way to break the game, but
And they didn't.
It feels like...
And by the way, they didn't. The pros didn't find a way to break the game in this meta, if I recall correctly. After they buffed Briggs' health, Mei, Sim, and BAP, after that, right, that's when you started to see the Briggs Zen metas come out with Ball, and it just was miserable. I don't think any pro broke this meta. It was the best state the game was ever in post-Brig.
Like, every character on ladder, all the way up to the highest MMR, until about maybe like top 50 or 100 or something.
Brig was still good, by the way.
Extremely viable. I mean, hell, Soldier 76 just got buffed this week, and I'm seeing Soldier 76 almost every single game, which is super nostalgic because I haven't seen Soldier 76 regularly played at high MMR since like 2017, back during Triple Tank, and seeing a Nano Visor run at me in 2020 is pretty terrifying. It feels that most team comps I see on the ladder right now are very map specific. So, like, for example, I'll play Reaper on Anubis.
Look at this exchange.
And then maybe it'll be
Look at this.
So I'll play Hanzo or Mei. And then maybe we'll go to
ult
Hanamura,
combos.
So I'll play Tor.
Like, guys, in Overwatch 2, nothing dies there. Because there's a Suzu, there's a lamp, there's a life grip. right? There's so many abilities that just get dumped in there that deny in a game that already has less players. There's less opportunities to get kills. And if you look at the elims per 10 stats, everybody said that 5v5 was supposed to be faster paced. Okay. If that's true, why am I doing more damage for less elims now? The amount of damage in order to get an elim outside of double shield is higher in Overwatch 2. I had a game where I finished with 37,000 damage. Or 31,000 damage and 37 limbs. It maybe took 1,000 damage to get a kill. Why are limbs per 10 stats across the board lower, right? Even in GOAT's meta, the meta that had all the sustain, all this stuff, a limbs per 10 for DPS heroes were still 25 to 30 when you were popping off well. Ever since Double Shield came out, though, that number went down to about 18. My limbs per 10 on Hanzo in GOAT's meta was about 25 to 30. The second Double Shield came out, my limbs dropped to 18 per 10 minutes. And the reason for that is all the immortalities and the broken sustain abilities that are centered around denying value. Overwatch, a game that what makes it so beautiful is the playmaking, the setups, and the execution to get big kills. That's what made Overwatch feel special. And yet the developers have continuously doubled down on the immortality abilities, the denial abilities, right? All these things deny opportunity, and they take away from what makes Overwatch great. And yet, instead of backtracking on those abilities even a single time, despite the community calling them out for 6 years, instead of changing Inspire, instead of changing any of the OP healing abilities, they've gone to roll Q, now up to 5v5, and now this Overwatch 3 nonsense where their answer is to let DPS reduce the amount of healing somebody gives. Okay, what about tanks when your DPS are dead? Okay, what about the fact that at the skill floor, all these heroes are going to have more health, meaning they're harder to kill at base? And the immortality abilities haven't been changed. DPS did not get ammo compensations to continue to put out damage. A hero like Cassidy's left in the dust. Breakpoints are changed, so Mei can't one-shot Tracer. So a lot of the big value DPS, Hanzo can't even one-shot any DPS in the game. And now he does get a projectile speed increase and bigger hitboxes. But they're making the game more brain dead and less about execution and more about just, oh, we're making it easier for everybody. Because they never understood what made it special. They never understood that having a long learning curve and a low skill floor and a high skill ceiling is essential to making people want to play the game and log on every day. And in 6v6, you can see these heroes, the abilities don't have to be as strong. The tanks don't have to have as much health. The supports don't need to have as much powerful healing, right? Player synergy and having more players on the map and stuff to work together with, which actually relies on execution, is what made the game beautiful. It made the game feel so much less oppressive. Because the game wasn't oppressive at the skill pool. The game wasn't as oppressive just from using an ability. And you can see it in this gameplay. Made it beautiful. And yet they refused to backtrack a single time. They said this patch wasn't the best one ever, even though unanimously the community came out and said this is the current team. So, let's keep watching.
Or perhaps we'll go to Rialto and I'll go back to Mei, or maybe even Farah on Nepal. There is so many options, and do know, by the way, I'm a DPS player, so I'm talking mostly about my examples there of DPS, but this is also true for tanks and supports as well, which is something that historically in Overwatch has not been the case, and this why I think this patch is truly something special. I've seen almost all support duos, including Brigitte, by the way,
who was still good,
who
was still good. Everybody said she was bad, and you know what I said? I said, hold the phone. Hold the phone. Brig is still very good. You guys just don't know how to play her. And then what did they do, chat? They gave her 25 more health. 25 more health, the most minor thing. And guess what the Overwatch 1 meta was for the next 2 years? Brig's in. Guess what the Overwatch 2 first meta was when Beta 2 came out for Overwatch League? Lucio Brig. They never sat down and studied. Maybe our community, we've never seen unanimously positive feedback from all the high-level players who even now still disagree to this day on many subject matters. But in this day, on that day in 2020, unanimously positive feedback. And then what do? Int down mid with more dog shit balance patches. And instead of taking a step back, then Aaron comes out and tells us, and somebody needs to go find this clip, where he's talking about the October 20 patch and saying there was some kind of misconception that it was good. This is Team 4. That's Team 4. So when this new patch comes out, and the reason why I'm saying this, I'm not trying to sit there and hard flame Team 4. I just want people to understand when this new Season 9 patch fails, because it doesn't address any of the core problems that Overwatch 2 has brought to the table. and it doesn't revert any of the mistakes of Overwatch 1 because they've run from their problems for 6 years instead of actually tackling them head on. Instead of accepting the fact some of these designs are fundamentally flawed and don't play by the same rules as the original cast, so it's not the same game that people loved anymore. They had the beautiful micro exchanges. I just want it all out on the table, and I want the big picture painted for people to understand. They can't blame Bobby Kotick anymore. Bobby Kotick was not the one who ruined the balance of this game and the micro of the game. You think he paid attention to that while COD Mobile was printing money, while Warzone was hitting all-time highs, while his stock price was at 105, while he's talking about the Microsoft buyout, while they were being litigated from the state of California? You think that Overwatch balance is what he was looking at? No. Was Bobby a shitter? Yes. He needed to go. He was there way too long. CEOs never stay that long, right? But put the blame where it needs to be if you want this game to succeed. Because I said in 2020, if this keeps up, the league's going to die. If this keeps up, Overwatch's going to die. What do people tell me? Oh, negative Samito, negative Nancy. He's so dramatic, so dramatic. Where's the league, guys? Where's the league? Why is the top end of the new competitive system basically just contenders with a prize pool that no one can live on at full time, unlike the Overwatch League? Where is it? I didn't want to be right. I wanted to be proven wrong. Unfortunately, I was right. And I'm still right now. This IP has no future if they keep going down this path. And I don't know what it's going to take for people to finally accept that. But we'll see. I digress.
Very common. I've seen Zen Mercy. I've seen Ana Lucio. I've seen Moira Lucio. I've seen Bap Zen. I have seen, like, you name it, I have probably seen it. And this is also true of tanks.
It was a beautiful patch. It was the best state of Overwatch.
Players run at me and completely stop me, by the way. You running double barrier, even though they just got nerfed into the ground. I've seen Winston Zarya. I've seen Ryan Zarya. I've seen Winston Diva. I've seen Sigma Hog. Hammond plus anything in the game because ball is crazy.
Also, I wonder what made Double Shield go away. Because the barrier tanks didn't get much changes. But what was it that got nerfed? Wait, it was Bap and Brig. They had their health pools lowered. Wait a minute. Maybe it was the supports causing that meta the whole time. I wonder who could have called out the supports.
Feels like in the current patch, anything can work.
Look at a DPS killing a tank, by the way, when they set up poorly.
How good you are at playing it, and what your teammates can also play to synergize with it. And
it's all about
this
setups.
Is something really, really.
It's all about
cool
how you play here.
Historically in Overwatch,
he drops the visor, nano visor, combo.
And something I've
gets rewarded for it.
Quite a lot.
Great angle.
You bring the character that's really, really good, and not what you're very good at. Rather, it's about picking the right character, not the character you want to play, or the one that you're really, really good at. Because that character might be so good or so overpowered that you have to pick them. An example is Brigitte on launch, or Moth Mercy, or Orisa during Double Barrier.
Or Mwauga, or Sojourn, or Kiriko. Huh. Wait a minute. Or Queen when she came out. Wait. Was Life Weaver the only hero that wasn't like that? And then they progressively buffed him until the sustain meta got so broken the fights were lasting longer than Double Shield in Season 7? What about Alari? Interesting.
Or Orisa Sigma.
Look at Sigma die there.
Or more recently,
the tanks could die.
1 month he was OP, or Roadhog in that 1 month he was also super OP. That's usually how Overwatch works, and how it's worked for many years. But I am very, very happy to say that after I have been playing in this current patch for about a month now, so do keep in mind, it is still relatively fresh, but after over a month, we still have not come to that same level of insanity yet. In almost every game, I see a massive hero diversity, and I'm willing to say that it is probably one of the best metas of all time for ladder that I have ever seen since Overwatch beta. And that is crazy. Do note, of course,
it was
I'm not
awesome.
saying that it's completely perfect. Like there's some characters that are still like not very good. For example, Bastion will probably always be like niche. McCree, our favorite cowboy, is in kind of a rough spot right now. Same thing with Orisa, as well as also Bap. But for the most part, I've seen almost every other character on a regular basis on ladder, and that's pretty nice. while this current meta is great, I also think it's important to quickly run down what Blizzard has done right in the past year or so to get the game to this incredible state, so that way when Overwatch 2 launches, whenever that may be, they can do it again. First,
oh man, I wish I could hone myself from the future to just warn him, like the Flash in the Justice League movie. No, right? You know, it's just so funny to see it come back to this spot, because especially with what they did right after this video, where basically they literally just fucking flicked the bird to their entire community and said, fuck you. That's the equivalent of what they did with the next packs. They said, fuck you. And then instead of reverting it, they left it in the game for 2 years. And then Aaron Keller came out and tried to gaslight us and said some shit like, well, there was like a conception about this PAX being the best one ever. No, Aaron, it was the best PAX ever. It was the best PAX you guys ever did. All of your haters, all of your critics, everybody, unanimously, and you could grab the logs from the creator Discord, from all the videos people made, unanimously told the dev team that they did a fantastic job. I remember distinctly telling the community manager at the time, you guys could leave the game like this for 2 years and go work on Overwatch 2. And then what did they do? They put out a dog shit patch that ruined the meta for 2 years and then left that one in the game instead. These guys, like, it has to be corporate sabotage. It's unreal how bad they are. It really is unreal.
First, Blizzard started experimenting hard. Like, literally, they added the experimental card, which allowed players to give rapid feedback without having to go all the way to PTR, and it allowed Blizzard to also do crazy experiments and not worry about it too much. For example, we got to see that crazy 2CP change, and they also even did an entire season of an experimental change with hero pools. Not being afraid to change crazy things allows them to figure out what's actually wrong. Two,
you still haven't figured out what's wrong.
More frequent balancing. Previously, in 2018 and 2019 especially,
I will say the pack cycle's better. It's just their pack cycle's better. It's just the new problems in Overwatch 2 can't be fixed via balance. So they shot themselves in the foot by changing the format preemptively instead of trying to balance out the old game to make it look like a new game, and now they're stuck in this shit format that they literally are going to have to find out that they can't actually balance out. So that kind of sucks.
Goal was every 30 days, which meant if you didn't get a balance patch, or say there wasn't a change that you liked in that balance patch, you'd have to wait an entire month to get to the next one. Blizzard doubled that in 2020, and they increased it from 1 bounce patch per month to 2 bounce patches per month. 3. This is probably the most important one in my mind. They weren't afraid to nerf characters. AoE sustain historically and death balls have become overly strong, starting with Brigida's launch, otherwise known as power creep, and it took over 20 nerfs for her to get in a good spot. In response, they buffed all the DPS characters in 2018 and 2020. Literally every DPS character except Doomfist and Widow was buffed from 2018 to 2020. This led us to this really awkward position as a game where I personally believe the fundamentals of Overwatch changed from its FPS roots and more into the realm of like WoW Arena, right? We have cooldown based gameplay with our cooldowns being ultimates and tons of burst damage and also shields in our case. And of course, what was the fix? Well, they just nerfed the crap out of everything and they reset the game back to a normal, good state.
Wait a minute, Seagull. Are you saying taking the game back to it? And this is what I tell Frito, because Frito, I love Frito to death, but I think he couldn't be more wrong about him preferring the MOs and the MOBA-esque style of the game. That's not what made Overwatch great. What made Overwatch great was that it primarily was a shooter game that relied on mechanical skill. You can't have abilities that straight up override and completely deny, with zero chance for counterplay, mechanical skill and setups and team fights. Because basically you could say, yeah, the team fights and the setups and the mechanics and the unique identity of all the characters, that's what makes Overwatch special. Let's continuously add characters that completely negate that experience. What kind of crack are you smoking, Team 4? Not Bobby Kotick, Team 4. What kind of crack have you all been smoking to not understand the most simple thing in the game? It's embarrassing. Y'all have the formula, you got the great feedback, and you chose to ignore it. And even now, you're continuing to go down the path of this shit. It's not the answer. You need to take a step back, and it's really funny that we hear Seagull saying this here back in 2020. Then the first time they actually backtracked, it created what? What's regarded to be the best patch in Overwatch's history. And yet this dev team continuously ints down mid with dog shit ideas. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it for those of you who want it sugarcoated, because sugarcoating it doesn't save a business. Sugarcoating it didn't save the league. Sugarcoating it didn't help our colleagues. Sugarcoating it does nothing. It's time that some real dogs get in there and tell them how it is. Because this is embarrassing that you can have all your top creators come out and tell you this, and then you gaslight them later, fail to execute on everything, and instead of backtracking a single freaking time, guys, now every tank is going to have more health, more sustain, which, what did Seagull say was the problem in this game? Oh, that's right. He said the sustain was the problem. So they're going to have more sustain at their skill floor, a place where low-level players never had to see it. Even if they're, and now the skill floor and the skill ceiling are going to be closer together because they've made every single character have massive projectile sizes, so it's easier to hit shots, which removes the depth and the execution out of the game and mitigates that even more when 5v5 already did that a ton, which was what the thing that made the game beautiful. So instead of taking the game back to the multiplayer that won Game of the Year, unfortunately, we're continuing to run it down mid instead of really taking a big picture view on the game, right? And it's just, it sucks. It really does.
They cannot be afraid to nerf characters in the future, especially as Overwatch 2 will more than likely launch with a ton of new characters. That will probably be totally crazy. I mean, let's be honest, it's going to be a totally new game, especially, but in the meantime, though, it is going to be honestly very boring waiting for Overwatch 2's release. But at the very least, we're in this extremely balanced state right now on ladder, and it's sort of like this golden era where we know because there is no more content coming to Overwatch 2, Echo is the last released character until Overwatch 2, and we have quite a ways to go. At least we're in a relatively balanced position where most people are having fun. And so even though we're going to be really bored until Overwatch 2 comes out.
And then they killed it on the next patch. The next patch. They buffed Briggs' health. They buffed Bap Window. They buffed May. They buffed Sim. And then Double Shield came back. And it was like, oh my fucking God, Team 4. What is wrong with you guys? And they just left it there for 2 years.
At least we aren't shooting at shields literally all day or playing into goats. And that makes me very happy. So I hope you're all having a great day. Thank you for watching. Have a good one. Enjoy the rest of the video. Until next time.
I mean, I just find it really funny how Seagull points out the exact issue and says this can't happen. And if you look at what's happened in Overwatch 2, that is what has happened. Except that's happened again, but I thought it was Bobby Kotick. It's happened again in a format that's worse, that makes it happen even more for the average player. And so instead of backtracking, sustain is like, guys, the DPS passive is not going to change sustain that much. Like a DPS shooting a tank, depending on the tank, like, yeah, you can reduce the healing by 20%. But what's frustrating about Overwatch and what really ruined the game was the override abilities that the supports had that you couldn't play around as any other role. And that's what really forced Double Shield, right? So it's crazy how in Season 7, that was just another Double Shield meta, just in 5v5. Because, again, all of the power of the off-tank in Double Shield was just distributed evenly, half of it to the tank, the solo tank, and then half of it to both supports. And that's why nothing died. That's why limbs per 10, even in a game that was supposed to be faster paced, are much lower. That's why the amount of damage you have to do to get a single kill in an elimination is much higher per limb in this game than Overwatch 1. So the time to kill is also going to get higher as well. Like, the time to kill was never the problem with Overwatch. The problem was that there were abilities that automatically denied value, right? On both the new tanks and the new supports in particular. The DPS really didn't have that problem. Echo was just strong with her ultimate. That was pretty much it. Her beam was a little too good, right? Ashe was never hard meta. Like, she was really, really good as a sleeper pick, but it was really supports in the tanks. And now we're in the exact same boat, heading into Overwatch 3.0, which is just going to be more of the same. So, you know, it's insane to me that Team 4 lost sight of the game that they created that was beautiful, but that really just goes to show you they never quite understood it to begin with. And I just want the record to show when you take a big holistic step back, because that's what this game needs, to take a step back. Because the last time they took a step back, they created the October 2020 patch, and they did a fantastic job. Their biggest critics, including myself, including Siegel, who was critical of GOATs, including Kabaji, including DeFran, including people who had left to Apex Legends. I saw Hollyworld talking about it, Valkia talking about it, PvPX talking about it, Bitsy talking about it, you name it. Everybody was talking about how good it was because they took a step back. And now all they've done is run it down mid and continue to int forward. It's embarrassing. And Season 9, when that's more of the same, I'm pulling up this video as another receipt, just to let everybody at home know, at what point do you say enough is enough and the writing is on the wall? When people show you who they are, believe them. And these guys have shown time and time again, they have no clue. So, where does that leave you?